It's Gavin Syme. I'm down here in Mexico. I've been in exile from the USA about a year now, and I'm watching the hate, the propaganda, the absolute frenzy against all this stuff, against the immigrants, against freedom, against the Constitution, which forbids immigration restriction, the idea that we should close our borders when all nations, you cannot name a nation that operates on walls and closed borders that is a great nation, that has freedom, guys. It doesn't work that way. Borders don't make free countries, they make slaves when you lock them down. Now, I'm not saying that we can't have people say, well, Gavin, you're just trying to do away with borders. The border's what's keeping you safe right now from the USA. There's a difference between having a border and a sovereignty of your local people, guys, and having a wall and having thugs at the border to abuse people. And so as the USA abuses and imprisons and traffics and enslaves, when I have to explain to people why it's a bad idea that your border is being militarized by an army, we know the country is screwed, okay? People are cheering an army down at the Texas border saying they're going to stop the immigrant caravan. The immigrant caravan is not even going to be coming through there, most of them. The army down there has nothing to do with the immigrant caravan. It has to do with normalizing New Berlin. It has to do with normalizing the idea that you don't get to leave your country without permission. I escaped about a year ago, and the infrastructure was already there to prevent you from leaving. You were going through unmanned, massive, millions of dollars worth of infrastructure check stations to get out of the USA, you guys. All they have to do is man it now. If you think the military is down there to protect your freedom, you're dreaming. These are order-following goons getting a paycheck. Not freedom lovers and not patriots. People say, well, look at Tijuana, they're protesting. Guys, you can find racists everywhere. But you know what? There's a lot of really bad misinformation, and I just want to touch on that really quickly. Because as the USSA, which is becoming New Berlin, it's becoming the new Nazi Germany, it's becoming the new fascism. And people say, Gavin, how dare you say that? I absolutely dare say that. There is few countries in the history of the world that have terrorized, abused, killed, murdered, and molested the world like the USA is doing today. We are the enemy of freedom in the entire globe, you guys. Now, you look at these Honduran immigrants coming up. People are saying they're an invasion. They're sponsored by George Soros, all this stuff. Guys, these are just displaced immigrants, and they travel in numbers, and there's a movement. The movements are growing because there's protection for them in numbers, and their message is growing. Do you know why these people are leaving Honduras? See, I see people saying, oh, the Hondurans ruined their own country with socialism. The Hondurans are screwed up their own country, so they're coming here to steal from us. Guys, these Latin Americans, they know how to work. The USA is a socialist state. The Latin Americans know how to work. And the reality is, the Americans, so-called patriots, they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose their socialist freebies. And so when you hear everybody carrying on and saying, oh, the Mexicans they're gonna take our stuff, right? What they're really saying is, oh no, someone might take my freebies. That's what's really happening here. Now, these Hondurans coming up, I'm adjusting the camera while I talk here, okay, because it's getting dark outside. These Hondurans that we see coming up, do you know why they're leaving their country? They're leaving their country because the U.S. government directly interfered in their politics, got their president ousted, and completely turned their country upside down. So Honduras is actually a perfect example of this as we see this going on, because the Hondurans are escaping their country because the USA destroyed their country, not because of their own socialism. Now, there are countries in Latin America like Venezuela that socialism has destroyed. I'm not here to chimp for socialism. We don't need to do any of that, okay? But what I'm telling you is, you're being fed a lie. You have these people, and they're claiming, right? You have people claiming that they're Mexicans, or they live in Mexico, all these things, and they're telling you things like the immigrant caravan is raping and pillaging and stealing their way through Mexico. It's not happening. They're simply fabricating this, guys. Mexicans don't just lay down and take it like you have to in the USA. Okay? Mexicans don't get angry if somebody resists a police officer because they're being a thug. That's a fairly normal way to behave in Mexico. And Mexicans certainly don't tolerate people going through and raping and stealing and pillaging. That's not what's happening. In fact, in many of these cities, the immigrant caravan is going through, and the Mexicans are going out of their way to help these people. And I mean a lot. We're talking about giving them rides. Guys, these guys are coming thousands of miles. They're not getting close to the USA because they walk really fast. They're getting close to the USA because people are helping them. Now, a lot of them, and let's be clear, a lot of them are staying in Mexico, because the closer they get to the USA, the more they realize what a sham it is and how much more potential they actually have to have freedom and respect down here in Mexico, okay? But as we see these crossing, we see protests in Tijuana, we see the Tijuana mayor speaking out against the immigrant caravan. Guys, in a city like Tijuana that borders the USA, that's where gringos go to get cheap hookers, that's not a representative city of Mexico. Now, you can certainly find racist people. You can certainly whirl people into a frenzy wherever you are in the world. But generally speaking, while people might be a little concerned about a bunch of immigrants marching across because there's so much propaganda, you know what they're not really concerned about is immigrants. The borders in Mexico, by and large, are open. There's immigration agencies trying to copy the USA because the USA is directly paying these guys in Mexico to abuse people, okay? And government, let's face it, is not really any better anywhere. However, the Guatemala-Mexican border, you can just cross. You might supposed to have papers, but the border's open. You can just get a guy and cross on a boat, and it's no big deal. Nobody cares. The U.S.-Mexico border, you can just cross in most places. See, the USA is trying to normalize fascism. What they're trying to do is they're using these propaganda shills saying things, and I'm actually getting messages saying, Gavin, do you have any information on the red-starred communist tanks from China that they're stored in Mexico getting ready to invade? I'm like, no, because they don't exist. This isn't an invasion. These people crying invasion don't even know what the word invasion means. Thanks, 220 Grit. They don't even know what the word invasion means. The people saying America first, they don't even grasp what America is. This is the level of ignorance in our country, guys, and it's hard not to laugh, but it's really sad. When you say America first, you're so ignorant, you don't even know what the word America is. I'm in America. The entire continent is America. The USA is not America. It's the USA. Every person in this caravan, well, most of them, all the ones from Honduras, they're Americans. The USA is a fraud. We are the terrorist state. Now, look, I warn people. I say, don't go to the USA. It's a terrible country. There's no freedom there at all. It's a fraud. It's not like you see in the movies. It's not like you see in Iron Man. Okay? Mexico has many problems, but there's much more passion here for freedom. There's much more love of neighbor, and people need to stand up. There's also people promoting racism. There's also people promoting the idea that we close borders to protect ourselves, and that has to be staunchly opposed by the Mexicans who value freedom, by the Mexicans smart enough to realize that they don't want to become the USA. The American dream is not in the USA. And so I know it's getting dark here. I don't want to keep this going too long, but listen, there's people putting this out. Thanks, guys. There's people putting out massive misinformation, saying that these immigrants are doing massive crimes, that they're coming here with socialist principles to invade the USA. Guys, most of these Latin Americans probably work harder than you do, all right? So the patriots spreading this NWO propaganda of close the borders, the founding fathers were absolutely against closed borders, guys. Read the Declaration. Thanks, JC. Read the Declaration. One of the reasons we fought the American Revolution, you guys, light back on, bear with me. One of the reasons we fought the American Revolution was because of immigration restriction from the king. The idea that people's travel can be impeded when they're not even suspected of hurting anyone is treason. They're waging war. These troops down on the border, by definition of the word, are waging war on the Constitution, our right to travel, our right to freedom, our human rights. These are people committing treason against freedom. The Border Patrol, Blue ISIS, the soldiers following orders and marching down there so they can militarize our border. Are we so ignorant? Have we never even looked at what it means when you have a standing army patrolling your borders and roaming your country? Do you honestly think, are we honestly stupid enough to think this has anything to do with poor immigrants coming from Honduras, a country that our government destroyed And there's actual documents of us interfering in the Honduran government to displace it and turn it upside down. Are we actually stupid enough to think that all this militarization, all this propaganda, all this stuff about red commie tanks hidden in Mexico waiting to invade, all the news propaganda, look, we found some protesters that don't like Hondurans in Tijuana. Okay, how much did you pay them? Maybe you didn't pay them. Maybe they're just racist. Who cares? People are justifying their crimes against humanity by saying someone else approves. And this is what we're coming down to, and I want to stop for a moment. And I want to close with this. If you justify your abuse of others, your imprisonment, your deportations, your laws, your regulations that impede travel, freedom, speech, defense of the individual, if you justify those, which I see every single day now from so-called patriots, justify your crimes that you support by saying, look, that country does it. Look, Gavin, they're doing it. Look, Tijuana hates them. That's not a justification. The fact that someone else is abusing your neighbor will not justify you before God, history, or man for your abuse of your neighbor. That's the definition of insanity. Look, the murderer is killing people. I guess it's okay if we do too. That's ridiculous. Of course the Mexican government abuses immigrants. Governments abuse everybody. They do it a lot less than the USA does. They're a lot less aggressive than the USA does. But yes, the USA is sponsoring and literally paying with your tax dollars to get the Mexican corrupt government officials to try and replicate U.S. immigration policies to legitimize the fascism. Who cares? I don't care if you found a mayor or a protester in Tijuana that supports your mentally insane idea that immigrants should be robbed, kidnapped, separated from their families, and returned to the country that you helped destroy? That they should be shot because they're trying to come and find a better life? If that's how you think, you're mentally ill. You need to seek help, right? I'd recommend seeking help from Jesus. Thanks, 220. But those of you that don't believe in God, I mean, you can seek help however you want. But wow, are we this stupid? Are you so stupid that when you hear people making up radical, racist propaganda with absolutely zero facts whatsoever, that you share and reblog and post this stuff and say, look, the immigrants are coming to invade us? We hate our neighbor in the USA. The patriots, these so-called patriots in the USA, they hate freedom with a passion. They hate the Constitution, which forbids all immigration restriction, with a passion. They hate the Fourth Amendment, which forbids detaining or stopping or imprisoning someone unless there's probable cause that they've committed a crime. They hate it with a passion. And so as they pretend they have gun rights, while our prisons are literally being filled with people who touched or sold or bought the wrong kind of gun or had the wrong kind of bullets, and they pretend they have more gun rights than Mexico or wherever. There's problems in Mexico. But when I see fake Christians and fake patriots say, we can support this abuse because this is the law of the land. First of all, that's ridiculous. That's not what Jesus said. Second of all, it's not the law of the land. The law of the land says shall not be infringed. The law of the land says the people shall be secure in their persons, papers, and properties. The law of the land says due process. Don't impede travel. The law of the land gives zero authority to this federal government to have anything to do with immigration. Those soldiers down on the border, they're traitors to freedom. They're not defending it. Maybe they're doing it ignorantly. Maybe they think they're doing the right thing, but it's time to start telling people the truth. Those cops patrolling your street, they're terrorists. They're blue ISIS. They're not defenders of law and order. They are creating the chaos and the anarchy, and it's time to wake up. It's time to realize that the USA is New Berlin. It's time to know when to get out, because I'm telling you, the USA is not getting better. The patriots are leaving. The real patriots are looking at their exit options and saying, okay, it's over, because all these people pretending to be patriots have destroyed freedom. If you're backing the blue, if you're backing the prisons, if you're backing the deportations, if you're backing the troops on the border, you're not a patriot. You're a nationalist. And it's time to say it out loud, you guys. It's time to realize what's really happening. And if you're duped this easily, then I don't know what to say. May your chains rest lightly upon you. There's not a whole lot I can do for you, because I've laid out the truth. I've proven the history of our founding fathers demanding the right to travel. I've proven that there was no authority given to the government to restrict immigration. The idea that a person should need papers and permission from government to walk, live, get a job, and feed their family is mentally ill. If you think that, you hate freedom. That's all there is to it. You just have no concept of what it is, and you're actually fighting against freedom, against justice, against loving your neighbor, against Jesus. So don't pretend with me, because I'm not going to let you get away with it, and neither is anyone else that's awake and love freedom. So be woke. I know we're all at different stages. I know it. I recognize it. As long as people are willing to open their hearts and start loving their neighbor, I can appreciate. It's time to stop making excuses for our fascism, though, and to start repenting for it. And start opposing the real invasion. The real invasion is the troops at your border. The real invasion is in your Congress. The real invasion is in the White House. The real invasion is in your city halls, your police stations, your sheriff's offices. That is where the chains are being made. And if you can't see it, then you cannot escape it. That's the reality of this immigrant caravan that was created by the terrorism of the U.S. government. Think about it. Research what I've said. Then go research all these radical, wacko, patriot propaganda creators saying we should build walls and we should shoot people for crossing lines in the sand and we should abuse people's rights, saying that the Constitution is what gives us rights and it's only for citizens. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The Bill of Rights doesn't give any rights. It affirms them, and they're for everyone. They have nothing to do with whether you're a citizen. See, we've come to think that patriotism and freedom is ignorance and hate. And it's not. Freedom is loving your neighbor. It's defending justice. It's opposing those who abuse it. That's the truth. That's the law. We not only talked about news today, we're really talking about law. And law isn't defined by governments. Law isn't defined by constitutions. Law is defined by human rights, by life, liberty, and property. And the reason that all the haters can do is call me names and say I'm an idiot and a coward and a traitor because I escaped and refused to walk into the gas chamber in the USA, the only reason that's all they do is because they have no answer. They can't prove me wrong in the history. They can't prove me wrong in the law because I've already looked into all this stuff. I've already escaped my mental fascism that thinks that we're better than people because we're born in the USA. I've escaped the ridiculous idea that Americans are better. And that people exercising their right to travel to try and come and feed their family because we destroyed their country are invaders. Stop letting people make you mentally ill. Stop letting people make up propaganda with no proof. Stop letting people make you fascists and anti-patriots. And ignore the people that call you an ignorant, idiot coward because they can't come up with any real argument. All right, guys, I'm going to go. I don't want this to get too long. I'm going to trim up the first part of this video once we're done here and get rid of the bad sound since we kind of covered the essentials in the later. But those of you, thank you. Thanks to those of you who stuck through all the way. You guys have a good night. Try and do some more live streams. It's just been a busy couple weeks working on some stuff in my day job. You can follow me on Instagram.com/GavinSime. See more of my day job work. And Facebook.com/CallMeGav. Like and subscribe. And why can't I get this light to go on like and subscribe? Sorry for the cruddy light tonight. I was hoping it would stay light longer, but it's winter. I mean, it's like 65 degrees here, but we're coming into winter, right? It did get really cold down here last week. It got like in below 40 one night, which was kind of freaky. But anyways, okay, I'm not in the north anymore. I really don't even need this cool blue Mexican jacket, but why not? All right, guys, peace. Love your neighbor. Take care.